All right, team. Welcome to the webinar. Thanks everyone for joining. I thought it was timely to quickly run through best practices to improve the return on investment for your solar power system. So all the important things to consider when installing a commercial solar system. So the uptake of solar month on month has continued to grow across Australia. So we just thought we'd try and educate a little more to provide a bit more of a service for everyone out there looking at the metrics for solar at the moment. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Hope you get a bit of value out of it. A quick insight into Spinifex Energy. I founded this company in 2018. The goal at the time and the goal today is to optimize and improve or save money for businesses across the eastern states of Australia on their electricity spend. So we've all seen the cost of power over the last 5 years creep up and up and up, and we've sort of come to a point in the market where it's levelised at the moment, but we are approximately sitting 100% above where the market was, say 3 to 4 years ago. So cost of power is relevant, it's expensive, and we've been trying as hard as we can to try and improve that position for people. So our experience, we started out as purely a solar company, operating from the tip of Cairns all the way down to the bottom of Vic and across to the Northern Territory. All of our solar systems that are out in the market come with an industry-leading guarantee on the generation. So we back our designs, we back our installation, and happy to guarantee what we say they're going to produce. We've got a national vendor network, so we can operate across the country. And most recently, we've added energy brokerage to our service offerings to better help our commercial clients with all of their energy needs. So anything from power factor correction, strategic energy brokerage in the form of supply contracts via competitive tendering, and the full scope of energy efficiency. Things that we can help with. Our experience ranges from a solar perspective, anything from your single floor tilt slab industrial buildings to your high-rise apartment buildings, office buildings, and everything in between. And we operate in the industrial, commercial, agriculture, manufacturing, and hospitality spaces. And as I said before, we've operated far into the north of Queensland and far down south into the New South and Victorian markets. Clients ranging from your local businesses to your national clients. So let's just dig straight into this. See a couple more of you joining. So welcome to everyone who's here today. And so I'll just kick it off from the pre-planning stage. So I'll try and go through the entire process of first meet for a solar system, pre-planning, then you move on to what paperwork do you need to get into place before anything kicks off, safety components, both for the installers on site and for your employees and staff. We go into some finer points of your rooftop design. So how are you going to maximise the roof space that you've got, and what's going to give you the best return on your investment, as well as improve the longevity of your solar system. Inverter and hardware placement. So there's often, depending on the size of the system, quite a bit of hardware that's got to be placed near the switchboard or at least in the property somewhere. So we go through a little bit around what that equipment is and where it should go, and things to consider. Forecasting savings and the data involved in providing those forecastings. Warranties and guarantees. So what's warranted, what's guaranteed when it comes to a solar installation, and then post-installation follow-ups. All right, pre-planning. So don't rely on estimates, use data. What that means from our perspective is we do a fair bit of work in the initial stages, sourcing as much data as we can, predominantly interval data, a record of 5-minute intervals of energy consumption from a site. over the last 365 days. So that gives us a fairly accurate view of what that site has consumed with regard to electricity, when that's being drawn from the grid, for how long and how much. Bear in mind that gives us a historical view. So one of the things we like to do is in these pre-planning meetings is to understand, are there going to be any further developments to the business? Are you going to be adding any further rooftop mech, or are you going to be doing any renovations or expansions, any more cool rooms? So we need to understand, does the historical view of your energy consumption provide us with an accurate view of what your next 5 years are going to look like? And trying to plan out, I guess, as far as you can within reason is very helpful when it comes to the accuracy of sizing a solar system. Next is we assess the structural and electrical capabilities of the site. So structural, obviously we jump on top of the roof and have a look at the purlins, have a look at the roof material, what your roof's actually made of, whether it's clip lock, trim deck, or any variation of that. Whether your purlins and your beams are wood or steel, the age of the building, and before we go anywhere with any installation work, we get a structural engineer involved in any case. But it's good to understand, roughly speaking, yes, I think we can load this roof up fairly well. So we'll start the estimates of a system of this size based on what we think we can get up there. And then the electrical capabilities, have a bit of a look at the switchboard, your main switchboard, to see what size cables are coming in, the transformer, whether it's a pad mounted or a pole mounted transformer out in the street, what size is it, and what size solar system do we think we can get on the roof. Obviously taking all this information down whilst we're there to hand on to the engineers once we move on to the next stages anyway. And so then we move on to understanding the current consumption and forecast expansion. So look, I touched on that earlier with the data. So we want to understand what that load profile looks like. Are you going to be drawing more power at night, say an apartment building when everyone's getting home and turning their aircons and lights and ovens on? Or is it more of a business hours operation where you're going to be, everyone's arriving at the office at 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 4 to 6 in the evening? So those sorts of things are good for us to understand. Pre-planning should also involve discussing the logistics of getting a solar system onto the roof and what that looks like in terms of how many vehicles are we going to have on site, how many men, for how long, and what area of the property will we need to take up when we're putting pallets of panels on the ground or vehicles or cranes to get things on the roof. So we always like to go through the logistics of the work that we do so everyone can understand in these early stages if it's going to cause too much disruption, or if, when we're quoting, do we need to factor in some after hours work to make sure that we can work in and around your business. And then review structural and electrical capabilities of site. And so that's basically sending all of the info that we have onto the engineers and get into the more formal side of the installation process. So paperwork, contractual obligations. I can't speak for others, but certainly for us, we have an installation contract once we've agreed on a proposal for the system size and cost, etc. So installation contract basically lays out all the T's and C's, make sure we're all on the same page. We put a rooftop layout in there, payment schedule, when those payments will be required to pay, a chart showing rough time frames of when the installation will start, how long it'll take, milestones in between, and so everyone's on the same page there and signed off. Then we move on to the grid connection application. So that's communicating with the distributor of your electricity, the DNSP. We get the electrical engineers involved at that stage to do the design certifications and the compliance reports. But also during this time, it's timely for us to explain how long that process of connection can take so everyone knows what to expect. and make sure that we get all that paperwork right in the first instance to try and minimise the time it takes to actually get this work done. Review all documentation. So that's just tick the box. We jump on a call and go through all of this paperwork with our clients so that everyone's happy, everyone's agreed to everything, and just makes the process run a whole lot smoother. All right, the safety. So when it comes to spinifex, we make sure that we've got your swims and access plans sorted before we arrive on site. So safe work method statement, have we identified the risks of the site? Have we planned for those risks? And is everyone in the team aware of that and signed off on those risks? And then also the access plans are both for our staff and the client's staff, making sure that everyone's aware. Yes, on Monday and Tuesday, we're going to have a crane on site. We'll have some bollards up and no-go zones underneath. Just have plans in place so everyone knows what the whole process is going to look like. And so there's no surprises on the day. Advise staff of those work safe areas. So often it's, depending on the size of the installation, you know, there could be a cordoned off area around the shed or around the building for quite a while. We've got to make sure that everyone, all the employees are aware of that. And then making sure all the contractors are wearing the appropriate protective equipment. So that's part of the sign-offs that we do. But if you're getting any work done, we certainly recommend making sure that anyone on your property is wearing the required PPE. So we move on to the rooftop layout, and this is part of the design process that's fairly important when it comes to improving the return on your investment. So obviously best practice for putting solar panels anywhere in Queensland is, well, anywhere, certainly in Brisbane in our longitude and latitude, is 27 degrees of fall facing directly north. That's going to give you your best production. Now, that's not always possible, given a roof structural integrity, given the shape or the fall that's already on the roof, and given the rooftop material. But there is a best practice that we start with, and then we work out the capabilities of the site to move back from there. So obviously on some buildings where a roof allows it, we'll put the panels on a tilt frame. This is obviously a screwed roof, so the uplift on a tilt frame is far greater than on a flush mounted panel. So that's where the structural integrity of a building comes into things. And if the structural engineer is willing to sign off on it, tilt frame's obviously going to give you a better generation. Look, at the same time, it will reduce the soiling or the buildup of dirt and grime on a panel. Certainly if it's near busy roads or anything, soiling can slowly reduce your production capabilities of a panel. So your tilt also improves the generation of a panel, the direction of the panels. So, you know, we're tilting these panels probably facing 10 degrees to the northeast on this particular install. That's all this allowed for. We couldn't really adjust these so they're facing directly north. So the direction of the panels is somewhat defined by the tilt or the fall of the roof. But during these discussions, when we're going through a rooftop layout, I certainly like to explain what losses, if any, you would see tilting panels at various directions. So that's all stuff that we can do with our software design portals. And so, you know, we certainly like to make that information known in these early design stages. Structural engineering will affect your rooftop layout. So we will quote based on our best thoughts on what a rooftop layout should look like. So if we're proposing a tilt frame, we'll quote accordingly. And then once we get the okay to go ahead with the job, we'll hand that off to the structural engineer to make sure that that's actually going to be something that is structurally sound. If it comes back saying, no, we can't allow panels in a tilt frame, well, look, we just got to lay them flush, revise the output estimates of the solar system based on that. And you've just got to go best practice within the full gamut of the allowance of getting your panels up there. So age, quality, material of the roof all affect the layout. So if you've got a really old roof, potentially with wooden purlins or a thinner thickness of purlin that doesn't allow for tilt frames or even a certain size system, we may only be able to get 500 kilowatts on a roof rather than 800, depending on the quality of that roof. So all of these sorts of things will affect the final install. Rooftop layout, finally, get a photo record of the roof before install. Obviously, we always do before we get up on a roof, but probably recommend either get a drone or get some photos for yourself, just so you've got your own record of the roof before anything happens. That just means everyone's on the same page if anything happens to the roof structure during the course of install. Hardware placement. So things to consider: site safety, access for maintenance. So site safety, basically, this is what a 100 kilowatt system would look like. We've got an inverter and a solar switchboard. So there is some hardware that needs to be placed somewhere near or somewhere in your building, preferably as close as we can get it to the main switchboard. So you've got to think about things like, this is a 120 kilo unit. Obviously, it's again structurally certified to hang on certain types of walls, but is it going to be where forklifts are driving, or is it going to be a heavy traffic area, or are we going to need to put a cage around it for further safety, or a bollard in front of it? So there are certain considerations with where you put your equipment. Access for maintenance. So we recommend once a year at least someone comes out to do a full run over of a solar system to make sure that there's no undue wear and tear up on the roof, no vermin getting under the panels, no cabling has come loose. But additionally, we need to check over the inverter down on the ground as well. So make sure it's easily accessible for maintenance purposes. Minimizing losses and cooling. So when we're placing this hardware, I did mention we want to put the inverter and the solar distribution board as close as we can to the main switchboard. The longer the cables, the more losses you will experience. Obviously, the electrical engineers will help us design the system to minimize that, but it's always the case, the longer the cable, the more potential for losses you're going to have. So where possible, we want to try and minimize that just as a best practice. And then cooling, depending on the placement of the inverter, if it's in an enclosed room, we'd recommend ventilation either with ceiling fans or exhaust fans, or an air conditioner is even better where possible, depending on the size of the room and how hot that room will get. Most of our inverters, where possible, are placed inside a property somewhere and usually in an open area. They've all got their internal fans, but a hot inverter will limit the production capabilities based on the heat, and it will slow itself down and won't produce as much. So it's always best to consider cooling of the inverter during these initial planning stages. Electricity supply contracts. We obviously get the interval data either from your current electricity retailer or from the distributor like Energex up here in Queensland. But also we want to know what you're currently paying for electricity, dollars or cents per kilowatt hour, for the next number of years that your supply contract is for. But also we want an estimate of what that looks like for the next 5 to 10 years as well. So forecasting that will also give us a much more accurate view on when your solar system will technically pay for itself and what your returns will be over a 5, 10, 15 and 20-year window. So that's something Spinifex can do right from the get-go. We can go out and get you your supply contract for the next 3 to 5 years, lock that in for you. We've got firm rates. We also know what the market's doing, so we can estimate what it's going to look like. It's a little harder in that 5 to 10 year window, but we can estimate whether the market's going to stay flat, go up, and we can do some modeling based on that as well. So we can see what different scenarios look like. 9 times out of 10 in this current climate, however, your solar system has paid for itself within that 4 to 6 year window anyway. And finally, you need to advise your retailer of a new solar system. So if you do have electricity supply contract that was signed up a year or two ago, you would have ticked a box saying, no, we don't have any solar. So there wouldn't be an associated feed-in tariff with your supply contract. You'll need to advise the retailer of any new solar system so that any excess energy that gets fed back into the grid, you're actually receiving that feed-in tariff. All the warranty information, so warranties and guarantees. You've obviously got a whole lot of equipment. So you've got your solar panels, your racking, holding the panels to the roof, cabling, conduit, inverter, energy meter, solar distribution board. So there's quite a lot of gear that will come with some sort of warranty. So all of that, from a Spinifex perspective, we hand all that information over in a handover package so that you've got it all in one document, or at least in a Dropbox file that you can download and save somewhere. But it's always good to have that information on file and understand what those warranties are. We're pretty upfront and clear about the equipment that we use, what those warranties are before we install them, so that you can actually make your educated decision on which system you're wanting to install with all of this information front of mind. And then the workmanship warranty, of course, is what's covered under the actual installation work that we do. So that's in addition to the warranties that are on all of your equipment. And then guarantees is something to consider as well. Not everyone will guarantee any part of your installation, whereas Spinifex will guarantee the generation. So we'll model the size of your system. We'll give you an estimate of the generation that it will produce over the course of the next 5 years. And we'll sign off on a guarantee saying that, yes, it will produce within 10% of this mark, based on the fact that we're confident with how we go about designing our systems, our track record in doing so, and our understanding of what's involved to make sure that we actually produce what we say it's going to produce. Maintenance and uptime. So uptime is another guarantee, and perhaps even just another way of saying a generation guarantee, but we're going to say it's your solar system will work 360 of the 365 days a year. Again, if the inverter's not operating, if it's gone down from a fault, it's not generating, so that can be tied in with a generation guarantee. But an uptime guarantee is also timing to get out there to site and problem solve, work out what the fault is and get it back up and running as soon as possible. So that's another guarantee that can be seen in the market. And then data storage. So that's just a guarantee to say that we're going to keep all of your data safe in historic data stored as well, so we can go back over the course of a system life cycle and actually show that, yes, it's produced what we've said it's going to produce. Post-installation. So once the install's done, we're not done. We like to do the full monitoring handover. So making sure that you as the client have got a dashboard showing what your system's producing, what your building's consuming, model that against what we said it would do originally. But for the most part, you want to have a clear view of any particular day, so you can jump on and say, yeah, yep, our solar system's working. Oh, look, we're consuming more than we're producing, and perhaps we can look at an expansion of a solar system or even battery storage. So monitoring handover is very important, making sure that you've got an understanding of how that portal works. You've got all the logins for it, and your key staff have access to it as well. Maintenance schedule is always in the back of our handover package. So these are the 30 items that we're going to check on an annual basis when we come back out to look over your system. And we'll tick that off and leave that with the system. And then your monthly and quarterly reconciliations. So depending on the service package that you sign up with, we'll offer a monthly and quarterly reconciliation of both your electricity bill. This is how much retailer said you consumed. This is what's on the bill. This is the feed-in as stated by the retailer. Is that accurate? Is the retailer charging you the right cents per kilowatt hour based on what's on your bill, but based on what's on your supply contract, and we'll do a reconciliation of all that for you, including what the solar's done and is it working at its optimal. Conclusion. So solar is still a valuable capital expenditure. Look, the increasing cost of electricity at the moment has meant that the return on investment of a solar system, even though we've been seeing we've got reducing government incentives for solar, they reduce December 31st every year, and we'll keep doing so for the next 7 years until they're completely gone. So the rebate you would have got, let's just assume we were looking at a 100 kilowatt system, that rebate reduces by approximately $5,000 every year. So presumably your payback period or your return on investment would be getting further away. But with the nature of the market, the electricity market at the moment, it means the payback period has actually been pretty steady, even though we've been having these reductions in government incentive payments. So, you know, a payback of 4 to 6 years, depending on the size of the system, is sort of where we're sitting at the moment. And that's still a fairly valuable capital expenditure for most businesses. Hopefully this has been some valuable information, and this checklist will save you from any traps, or making sure that you're completely aware of what you're installing on your roof, what it's going to save you, and whether it's been a worthwhile investment. Thanks for everyone for joining. Love chatting to you all. Next webinar for next month, we'll be looking into the technological advances in batteries for 2024. So every year we sort of look at what technology is available now, what's on the horizon, where we thought it would be in 2024, what types of technologies are available, whether that be lithium, lead acid, flow batteries, or anything in between, and what tech will come with some of this, these batteries, and what can we expect in the future. So that should be an interesting topic for everyone, hopefully, and love to see you all join on that one in the coming month.